she's so fine. Hell of a ride, blows my mind. Hell of a ride, lights my day.
What's good, guys? This story came out on Friday via The Root in an article wrote by Joe Gerardo. It's coming out of Baton Rouge, and I want to thank Marie722 for sending it to me. Police strip searching teen and entering home without warrant leads to Baton Rouge paying out $35,000 to family. Clarence Green was driving in his car on New Year's Day last year when he was pulled over by a police officer in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The ensuing traffic stop was anything but routine as the officer proceeded to publicly strip search Green and his 16-year-old brother. Over a year later, the city of Baton Rouge had reached a $35,000 settlement with the Green family over the incident. CBS News reports that in addition to strip searching the two, body camera footage shows officers entering their home without a search warrant with guns drawn. The officers allegedly found drugs and guns during the search, resulting in Green spending 5 months in jail. He was eventually released when a judge ordered for his immediate release after finding that the officers demonstrated a serious and wanton disregard for defendant's constitutional rights. What's captured in the video bears a close resemblance to sexual assault than it does to constitutional policing. The officers involved were clearly outside the bounds of anything that the Supreme Court has said is permissible for law enforcement officers to do, Thomas Frampton, the Green family attorney, told CBS. In his ruling, the judge also noted that the official police report of the incident had been revised over nearly a dozen times, which only further drives home the feeling that the officer knew he fucked up. What makes this even more frustrating is that the Baton Rouge Police Department have said they conducted an internal investigation into the incident, but the officers still have their jobs and it's unclear if they faced any discipline. The reason people have such a growing distaste for cops is that they all seem to think they're above consequences. That by virtue of wearing a badge, their bad behavior should be looked past. It's bad enough that they went against protocol and entered someone's home without a warrant. What really crosses the line, in my opinion, is the fact that they publicly strip searched a 16-year-old boy. They broke the rules, violated a child, cost the city money, and yet it's still doubtful these officers will face significant consequences. Why should anyone trust cops if they're just going to behave in a manner that's just as abhorrent as criminals, or look the other way when it happens? Simply wearing a badge doesn't mean shit. It's what you do while you're wearing it, and historically cops haven't exactly shown themselves to be people of moral fortitude. Now, some of the comments under this article are what's the most interesting. This person wrote on the 28th, only $35,000 for violating the rights of 2 minors and an illegal, unconstitutional search? That family must have hired a bargain basement lawyer. Hell, they had a case where it could be argued that the police sexually assaulted minors. How aren't there 2 extra zeros on this settlement? Pro tip, if your rights have been violated by an agent of the government, get on the phone with the ACLU. Their lawyers tend to be pretty effective at making the offending government pay up. Another person writes along the same lines. Came here to say something very similar. Number 1, that's sexual assault of a minor, which we all know is illegal. Number 2, illegal search and seizure, also illegal. And number 3, only $35,000. This family could have bankrupted that police department and should have. The next comment says, 1 0 is reserved for white people. 1 0 is reserved for rich people. The next person. And always add a couple of zeros because this country doesn't think black lives' rights, property, dignity, health, etc. matter. And they will effing lowball you. This is a effing lowball. What the F kind of drunkard pretending to be a lawyer represented this family? The next person wrote, I agree that the settlement is low, but don't blame the lawyer. Apparently he got involved 72 hours before the statute of limitations expired, and almost certainly did it pro bono. All parties have to agree that it's settled, so the family definitely signed off on the deal. I have yet to see compensation in any police or prosecutor misconduct case that had the right amount of zeros because the system is effed up. The next one. The officers allegedly found drugs and guns during the search. A good follow-up. Were the guns legal? This is Louisiana, so the guns could very well be legal. And the drugs? Were they present, or did the officers plant the drugs? And did they plant guns? As long as we're addressing a common complaint against officers. Again, this is Louisiana. Corruption is part of the ruling culture. And this next comment, I'm going to end it after this, but it says, the trial docket entries show Clarence Green was charged with being in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 922 G1, which makes it illegal for anyone who has been convicted in any court of a crime of punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year to be in possession of a firearm. While it is certainly possible that the cops were planting evidence, especially in Louisiana, that is not something that appears to have been alleged by Mr. Green, his juvenile brother, Kayleen Butler, the driver of the Forerunner in which the Green brothers were backseat passengers, the young female or the other unnamed passenger. Of course, with no legal proceedings against the others, additional violations may not have been widely reported. Goes on to say, I believe the money quote from federal judge in the opinion to dismiss with prejudice reminds us that there's a bunch more villainy here than just the cops. And here's the quote from the judge. The point is mooted by the government's motion to dismiss. Still, however, defendant has spent 5 months in custody as a result of the government's actions. As such, it is appropriate to remind the government and its representative, the United States Attorney, of its paramount obligation to seek and serve justice, not convictions. Berger v. United States, 295 U.S. 78, 88, 1935. The United States Attorney is the representative not of an ordinary party to a controversy, but of a sovereignty whose obligation to govern impartially is as compelling as its obligation to govern at all, and whose interest, therefore, in a criminal prosecution is not that it shall win a case, but that justice shall be done. And it gives a link, and it says, has the docket entries and some of the filings available, and lists no fewer than 4 attorneys for the plaintiff, all of which were on board with this proceeding. And it shows the attorneys. Demetrius Damone Sumner, U.S. Attorney's Office. Jeremy Shane Johnson, Department of Justice. John Brady Casey, United States Attorney's Office. Kashan Khan Patham, U.S. Attorney's Office. I agree. When I read the headline for the article, I was like, hold up, $35,000? Like, that ain't shit. That was my first reaction. And then my second reaction was in regards to the team being strip searched. This case is bananas. I'm just going to be real honest with you. It's bananas. But I definitely wanted to bring it to the channel just to put some light on it because I had never heard of it before. So I'm going to end the story on that note. But let me know what you think about it in the comments. This happened New Year's Day last year. So this is pretty recent. I'm going to end the video on that note. Thanks for watching, guys.